Shelley, can do roll call, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. District 1, Councilman Rios.
Present.
District 2, Councilman Pastor.
Present.
District 3, Councilman Lethem.
Present.
District 4, Vice Mayor Stapleton.
Here.
District 5, Councilwoman Giles.
Present.
District 6, Councilman Shipley.
Here.
Mayor Gameros.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Shipley, can you lead us in the invocation, please?
Be honored to. Please bow your head in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you that we can be here today to do your work and to help our community come together through this crisis. Please help us all to help each other and get through this troubling time. We especially want to pray for our first responders who are dealing with the ill and taking care of them and putting their own lives at risk. And also like to pray for the families who are dealing with illness at this time. Please, Lord, help us to make the best decisions that we can so that we can move forward. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Jesse, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go to council reports, and Mike, we'll start with you down there.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything to report. I've been pretty much hunkered down for the last 20 days, so I've been going out, that's for sure.
Thank you, Mike. Jesse?
Mayor, I as well have nothing to report, but they know. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Fernando?
I fielded a couple of complaints and they were both on the same thing. And so I told them I would bring it up at the council meeting. But the new storage facility at Salong up Broad Street there on the highway, they weren't fans of the razor wire. They said nothing says welcome to Globe like razor wire. And I said, well, maybe by the time it's done, the buildings are in, it's mostly around the side and the back. But just maybe that's something we could kind of minimize on highway frontage. Thank you, Mayor.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe it's just the back.
It's the back and the sides.
Yeah. Is that it, Fernando?
That's it.
We'll address that, I guess, somehow, or talk to him about it, maybe.
Yeah, no, I can follow up with council at another time. Yes.
Thank you, Paul. Charlene?
Well, I'd just like to mention that with the loss of our Department of Corrections workers, our Public Works Department is down about 2/3 of its workforce. So those guys are still out there carrying on doing, that was the figure I was given. So it's okay if it's incorrect. That's what the figure I was given. But I would like to say that the guys that are out there, our regular employees, are really carrying on and doing well, especially at the dog park. It just looks so great. So thank you to them. Also, thank you to Ruben Avalos. He's our building and facilities worker, and he's really gone to a lot of extra effort and time through this pandemic. So I'd just like to acknowledge him. And then we need to thank Danny, our IT guy. Where is he? He was, oh, there he is. He's put in a lot of extra work and has had a lot of patience with everybody through this time. So thank you, Danny. And again, let's just give a special thanks to every clerk, cashier, service worker, healthcare workers, and our police and fire first responders, because they're the front lines right now. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Shirley. Freddie?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a comment to the public in general, that we need to continue to practice our social distance and our, clean behaviors as far as washing and following all the CDC guidelines. We're not through this thing by any stretch of the imagination right now. So we just need to continue to stay focused. And my best wishes to everybody. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Freddie.
I have nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I'd like to make a comment just on, I spoke to Chairman Rambler this morning. I know there's a lot of Facebook rumors out there going about an individual coming to a funeral on the reservation and some speculations as to where this individual went. And there's a lot of other things. You know how it goes when you start posting stuff on Facebook. Chairman Rambler was okay with me sharing that this individual did come from New Mexico, and I think she was from the Navajo Nation. She did go to a funeral where there was a home about 30 people. She did visit some businesses in San Carlos, and then she went back home to her home base where she tested positive for coronavirus. They have increased their testing. Last week they had 68 tests that they had completed. Now they're up to 141 because of this incident. They had 60 pending from the individuals because they did their research as to how far her outreach was on the reservation. So they tested 60 people, and as of this morning, they have gotten back 49, but I think our afternoon report was 53 were negative. So I think we're still pending about 7 more tests from that outreach. There is a rumor out there that this individual came to the Globe area. That is unconfirmed at this time. The Indian Health Services is working this case along with the Gila County Health Department working it. So if there is a potential that this individual did come to the area, that would be addressed through the health department with further information as they move forward. I think that's all that, I talked to him this morning, like I said, and I think that's all we had in conversation at this time. They are concerned. They did some major shutdowns with their community. The highway is still open. You can still stop anybody can stop on the stores along the highway. It's just there's areas on the reservation where you're not allowed to go into without some kind of pass on your vehicle. I want to thank our staff, our council, and everybody for the hard work. I know this is a trying times for all of us, and I think everybody has really stepped up in trying to deal with this and trying to continue our services that we offer to our residents. And I'm really proud of the way our city has really responded to this epidemic or this pandemic. So thank you very much. And I again voice what Freddie said. Make sure you use good hand cleaning. We should be wearing masks if we have to, like in heavy areas like Fry's and Safeway and stuff or Walmart. We should be wearing those. And there's plenty of people making masks out there if we need one. Make sure they have the filter type in them, and that'll give us the highest protection of all. So thank you. Paul.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, so I'll be giving an update on our response to the COVID-19. And unfortunately, I don't have anything else on my mind right now other than COVID-19, so I have no additional comments.
Thank you, Paul. We go to our first community to call to the public, and I think there's an email, Danny, that we have out there that they can email in if they do want to make comments, and we'll take those anytime, whenever they come in, I guess.
Yeah. And Mr. Mayor, members of council, Danny, can you reiterate with any of the emailers that they need to have a full-blown first and last name in order to be read into the record? I don't need a location, but first and last name so that it's not anonymous, but is that way. And anybody that has already sent something, if they don't have that, if you could respond to them and ask them for their first and last name.
Certainly.
Okay, because that's how again, comments are not anonymous. They need to be from a person who's identified.
Thank you. Okay. So we go to special presentations and ceremonial matters, and first we have City Engineer Jerry Braun will update council on possible FEMA remapping of the city Globe floodplain.
And Jerry, are you out there? Okay. So we're calling Jerry there. Great. Hey, Jerry, can you hear us? Okay, we can't. Oh, there you are.
Ooh.
Yep, we can see you. There you go. So go ahead, you're up, and we're talking about FEMA update.
Yeah, this always got me confused. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I got a real short update. Shelley, did what I sent to you, did that get passed out at all?
Jerry, did you send us something? Jerry, no, it did not.
Well, wait a minute. Just because I'm so IT savvy.
Would Jessica have sent it, Jerry?
No, it's me. I'm trying to upload it right now.
Oh, okay.
If you can open it and then share the screen.
That's what I'm trying to do right now. There you go.
Oh, look at you. You get the Geek of the Day award.
Good job.
Can you see that?
Yes, we can. I just, high five.
That's so encouraging, isn't it?
On the City of Globe's floodplain remapping efforts. I've been in touch with Michael Bishop from FEMA, and we were scheduled for a remapping, which if we qualify for it in 2022. He believes that rather than go completely throughout Gila County and do the remapping, that there might be enough money left over yet this coming fiscal year for Globe. So, so I'm in the effort right now of submitting to FEMA for their approval. See how this works? So, you know, this is our city limits, and the numbers that you see, I think they're in blue, are firm maps.
My tax.
Firm maps which cover the floodplain data for that area. And basically, well, and if you don't know what a firm map is, this is an example of one. This is one of our firm maps for our city. It basically shows you the floodway, the floodplain, and everything that's governed by that. And put out by FEMA. It's the flood insurance rate map is what the firm stands for. Basically, what Michael has asked me to do is submit a list of the firm map panels, which we would like revised and remapped, and along with the washes that we would like looked at in those maps. And what I did with staff was we went through and listed every panel that was within the city limits, and listed the washes that are within those panels. So I've spoke to Michael as late as today. He is in the process of putting these projects out, so we will know by October whether we qualify for one yet this year, whether we have to wait on the entire project, which is in 2022. Hopefully that one will. It's when they're going to do most of Gila County. So, oh wait, I got one more slide. There you go.
Any questions for Jerry, comments? Fernando?
Jerry, you know, I have to work with the flood maps quite a bit, but the impression that I get from FEMA is that they want the flood zone to be somewhere. So if we correct it, they just fudge the line over the other direction. Is that right, or am I missing something there?
Now, that's somewhat correct. You know, we still use the fixed flood elevation to determine where the floodway is and where the floodplain is. There is a floodplain through the city and a floodway, but the extent of that is based on the elevation. That's what we're asking them to redo. Before, when we were asked by some of the citizens to redo this map ourselves, the problem is if we remap it, between how this elevation is fixed, the floodway from here to here. That we have now the floodway are happy, but the people we threw in are not happy. So, we chose his group at staff to ask FEMA to do it for us. That way, that we know it's accurate, we don't have to go back and forth on, and Michael, Bishop, District 9 has acknowledged that we do have an issue here in Glow, and he's gonna try to help us move forward at a quicker pace than 2 years.
Okay. Now, for all the people who have already done flood elevation certificates, then this is the time that they would update the map to show the corrected elevations. Is that right?
A FEMA would do what they call a LiDAR. It's like a radar, apply like a drone type thing, where they map the elevations, and it's done a lot cheaper than it used to be when we were actually out in the field taking elevations. So it's a less expensive way to do things, and they have the capability to do it. But we know for a fact that like down towards the Spat, and the floodway, in other words, the deepest part of the creek is actually where his building is, not in the creek. So we know we have issues, and if we're going to move forward with economic development, we have to get these things right.
How long would it take for the corrections to go into effect? Would it be in the next maps that come out?
If they decide to move us forward, which Mike thinks they might be able to, because what he said is these are multi-million-dollar mapping projects, and that they might have a few $100,000 left over, and that would be a perfect size for us. So if that happens, it'll be probably before this time next year, we'll have new maps. Otherwise, we have to wait for 2022 and 2023 before you.
Okay, thank you.
Charlie?
Hi, Jerry. I just have one question. From north to south, from North Broad to south, how far does that go that's in the actual floodplain? From like the trestle or J&R's south?
So I think maybe I'm not understanding your question, Charlie.
So if we're at at J&R's, or we're at the train trestle coming into downtown Broad, coming into downtown on Broad, from that point going south, where does it stop? Does it go all the way to the Center for the Arts? Where's the cutoff of what is actually in the floodplain? I don't know that, and I've had folks ask me that.
Well, the wash, it goes completely through the city. And everything within that wash outside that will flood in 100 years, within 100 years is in the floodplain. If I'm answering that right. If you're asking specific on what area, I would have to sit down with a map with you, Starling Street.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And the map that I provided, Paul and Shelley would maybe send that out to council. It kind of shows you the areas that are within the city that are washes and gulch.
Okay.
But
Read it.
it's really.
I got another question.
I'm so IT efficient that I managed to get this PowerPoint up, but I can't figure out how to back it up.
Another question from Fernando, Jerry.
Just another, I guess, a point in. A lot of people think that this is really just to get a better rate on flood insurance, but this also affects building codes, right? So if somebody wants to build something and we deem it to be in one of these problem areas, then either they could be prohibited from building or they'd have to build it to a certain standard. Is that right?
So within the floodplain, there are provisions that we can build within a floodplain. But if you're deemed within the floodway, it's very, very strict. and the buildings that are within the floodplain or floodway have to abide by the regulations, which means if you add more than 50% to the structure, the value, that it has to be completely engineered as a structure.
Thank
In
you.
other words, places like J&R, you know, they were very careful when they renovated to only go up to 50%. Otherwise, they would probably build a budget.
Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council?
Got one for Jerry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jerry, good to see you again. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I even when I'm at work, I stay hidden.
Yeah.
Now we know.
But anyway, Jerry, thank you for the hard work on this. This is very important to a lot of our business people and even our residents to get this thing straightened out. It's been a big question for the past couple of years, so I appreciate the work on it and hopefully get some answers to them in the next, hopefully this year, and if not by 22. Thank you.
Well, it sounds like FEMA is really anxious to help us out, so I've got my fingers crossed.
Okay, Paul?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this presentation was requested, and we've had this presentation before by Udon McSpadden. I think he kind of is the poster boy for sitting there with a section of property that is deemed in the floodplain when the actual creek right next to him is deemed out of the floodplain. Anytime, you know, government appears to be nonsensical, it damages us all. Having, you know, and there's very technical and not logical, but ways to explain why that is. But the fact is that we've been sitting here, you know, with trying to look at that. People, you know, it just doesn't make sense. And so we're glad that we're finally going to get some action to change that. It's much more complicated, but at the end of the day, I think Udon's, you know, complaint, why is my building, you know, my property in and the creek is out? I think it's anytime we can, you know, correct those bureaucratic not mistakes, but you know, changes, get it, government ticking on all cylinders. I think it's better, even if it is the federal government. And so thank to Jerry for reaching out to FEMA and helping get this project going. And I think that Udon will catch up to this presentation. He couldn't be here tonight, but he's very excited that we're moving forward with that. And the other thing is we have been talking with the county on this. They're going to be partners in that. And so that'll be a very important conversation. We've had multiple conversations with the county. So, and Mr. Mayor, the members of council, that's all I had to add.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. Next, we go to City Manager Paul Jepson, who will update council on the City of Globe's internal and external response to COVID-19.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, you know, I believe that this council has been on the forefront with taking those precautions and staying ahead of the curve and taking measures and getting prepared and being safe and trying to slow or if not stop the spread. I think tonight we learned from a press release from the county health department that there has been one person identified, one case identified in Globe. We don't know much more detail about that. I feel comfortable that you know, we've already been doing the things that we need to do, the changes in the meeting, the seating arrangements here. I know we did get an email from Sherry Rice asking why Shelley and I are not 6 foot apart, and so we're working in a way to can get around that, but yeah, and I won't take it personally, Shelley. So, and I know the people in the back are doing their best to make sure they're 6 foot apart. But we have gone with A team, B team. We're trying to keep everybody separated. We're down to let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, starting Monday, between 4 and 5 people stationed out of City Hall permanently, or their job location is there. I think by Monday we'll have, depends on some court paperwork, we'll have it down to 4 people. We have many people, key staff, working from home, which is good for that separation and staying, keeping their distances. The 6-foot distances, we're working on that. I think the thing that we are have done with some members of our staff that are employed by areas that are shut down, library and BESH, we've transferred them around and they're helping out in other areas and taking their precaution, which actually is part of that 18B team, because if something would happen at the museum, we have people who are separated who can go back. At the library, we have people who are separated can go back. And the other thing is very aggressively monitoring and dealing with any type of if you call in sick, we're going to ask questions. We're going to check up. We're going to make sure that everything is followed, precautions with all our crews and with all our staff, that people need to talk to HR before they come back. And we ask a lot of questions, make sure everything is good, and just to make sure that we protect the healthy staff. So I don't have a full-blown presentation on that. That was on kind of the internal side. I did. So the externally, I can't remember when the order came down. I think it was after the last meeting when we had to close off playgrounds, which is because of the metal, because of the proximity and the hygiene. We've also closed off public restrooms, or restrooms that are managed and overseen by the city. It doesn't, not to be confused with private restrooms that are open to the public, but restrooms managed by the public, just because of the hygiene issue. Unless we had a crew, we've heard you could keep them open if you had a crew going in after every person and making sure it's clean. We don't have that ability, so we've kept our restrooms closed, and I know that's a hard thing to do when we have such beautiful parks and amenities here. And the water office, I wanted to talk about some changes we made there. We have put together, in the forms or in your packet, an agreement for an extension if you owe on a bill and you don't have the ability because of COVID-19, because of the coronavirus. If you seek out and contact City Hall and let us know the difficulties you're having because of the COVID, we can work with you to do an extension agreement. We can also work to do payments. So if you need an extension and then at that point do payments, we'll carry it out to 6 months out from the time that you do start making payments. We got some flexibility built in there. Some people just can't do it right now. Some people want to spread it out. I will tell you that we have the ability to waive fees and turn on and turn off, and late fees. We do not intend, and nor do I think we should. The water bill is the water bill. We can extend that payment, but our intention is to fully collect the water payment. Just we can float it until after this period. And so I think that's something that we've asked for, the council's asked for. I think it's a fair thing to do, to allow people a chance to, to manage their finances and we not be the one that, is turning off their water and that. I will tell you that our policy is not to turn off water for non-payment. And we will seek out anybody who is in danger of that with phone calls and encourage them to come down and enter into one of these agreements. They're an agreement. I think good-hearted people will come down, explain what's going on, and sign the simple one-page form we have with that commitment that when things are better and they can, that they will follow up and get caught up on their water bill. I know that that's really important. I will tell you that there are cases when it's a public health issue that water must be turned off just because of a myriad of things, but that's not a payment issue. That's usually where there's some type of a structural problem with a facility. When sewers are leaking, waters feed those sewers. Water needs to be shut off. But we will make phone calls, and we will send out notices saying, you're late or you need payment. But we have additional staff available to help make those phone calls and encourage them to come down and come to the window and work with our staff to make arrangements. And that's the other thing. The window is working out very well. Everybody loves it. On the outside, they love it. The inside, they love it. It's a keeper, I think. So the walk-up window for the water bill. Let's see. And the only other thing I wanted to talk about, I wanted to stress a little bit about what we're doing for small businesses. The most important thing, I think, the thing that we can be most proud of is we have a website up. It's a collaborative work between the city and some other economic development with a EDC. It's www.onecobravalley.com. If you're a resident, if you're a business person, if you're an employee, if you want to find out how to do small business loans, you want to do about some of the care packages and things like that, it's a one-stop with links to local banks and other activities and all the websites. There's so many websites, so many phone calls we're on, so many Zoom calls we're on trying to get this straightened out. People are working hard to take advantage of the funds and the support out there, both at state, city, county, state, and federal level. So the onecobravalley.com. If you say it 3 times, people remember it. That is www.onecobravalley.com. And remember, that's Cobra with an E. That's a mistake I made once. And so that is for your small business, nonprofit, displaced workers. We have our team is reaching out to every active City of Globe business license holder. And our team is Linda, along with Melissa, Adria, and Leanna. And Adria from the library and Leanna from the museum are all working out to check in with our business license holders. And a lot of it's about small business. Sometimes it's just an ear to listen to. I think the more the city can, we survive because of the influx of economic activity that happens in our city. It's a feedback loop. We provide them resources and structure and a mass of people, a populated area, and they do business, and we collect taxes on that. You always need to take care of your funders. And our our business people, business license holders are our funders. They are the people, along with the residents and the taxpayers, who pay state income tax and different taxes. And so the phone calls we're making, I think, are very important. Help them be an ear. And I think a lot of people have said, the only person that's reached out to them has been in the city. And it just, there's lots of people doing lots of things, but I'm very proud of our team that we've taken the time and the resources and effort to make those phone calls. And I don't think they realized how long that list was when they started, but they're still at it. Let's see here, I have a little list here. So there are businesses who have been approved for the SBA economic injury disaster loans. There are also businesses that have been approved for local banks for paycheck protection programs. They're receiving grants from Local First, Arizona. And so it's happening. If you're skeptical, or you're like, this is not a handout. These funds are there for people because due to the situation, the government said you need to shut your doors. And the least we can do when we say we need to shut your doors is we need to help them find those resources. The federal government has put this money to help them get through this period that we're asking them to take this hiatus from activity. And so there's nothing wrong with going after what is rightfully put to benefit you, because it benefits you, it benefits us, it benefits your employees, and we need to keep these businesses so when the other side of this comes, they're still able to open up and go back to where we were as best we can. And let's see, also working with representatives from Gila County and the Northeast Arizona COVID business response team, trying to find more resources and more groups of trying to find as much resources to get them in the hands of as many people and businesses as we can. So don't think that it's insurmountable. You don't have the technical ability. You don't have the, you don't qualify. These are put in place for the people out there who are thinking, should I reach out? And some people are humble and some people are proud, and they feel they just need to tough it out. It's like, this is not the time to tough it out. Reach out, call the city, and we will get you in the right hands. Go to the onecobravalley.com, check it out, and there's things that you can do to help you through this financially and business wise. So that's the message on the economic development side. With that, I think there's many other side things we can talk about. I think we're good here. Danny, I didn't see if we had any other questions other than the Sherry Rice question. Let's see, and let me see what we have. Danny's got a new way to chat with me. Yes, and so there was a comment about crack sealing crews being not fully separated to 6 foot. We had that conversation this afternoon about how we can do better at that, even before I got this message. And let's see, the other question, that was, I think, from Linda Gross. The second one was from Linda Gross, was, let's see, aware of problems regarding large, more than 10 gatherings of people. You can speak to any of the enforcement issues. Anytime we hear of large gatherings, our first call is to Michael O'Driscoll with the county health. They have a lot of contacts with that. I know I don't want to go into individual issues, but that is one of the let them know. I think they're appropriate in reaching out to their, I've talked to him if he wants us to reach out or they want to reach out. Many times he's able to do that, and many times he's already on top of that. So that's to answer those two questions about large groups. But again, the policy on enforcement is educate and inform, and just let people know that others are concerned. And let's see, I think, did I cover them all, Danny? Okay, good. So Danny's giving me the heads up here. So, Mr. Mayor, unless members of yourself or any members of council have any questions, Vice Mayor, anyone?
Anybody have questions or comments for Freddie?
Yes.
So the comment about our staff out in the field not creating that social distancing, that is being addressed, or?
Oh, yes. So,
okay. It's just, there was
vital. There was a lively phone conversation that I'm aware of that happened this afternoon.
Okay.
And I won't go into detail.
No, I don't need detail, but I think it's important that our staff understands that, the importance of their work in the city is so extreme right now, and to jeopardize that would not serve in the best interest of the city.
No, and we have to, like I say, we're part of this. Everybody has to do their part to do that, and so we had that conversation with the appropriate people.
Paul, just one more. We had another executive order come out this afternoon. I don't know if you saw that. I haven't read the full extent of it. The order was to help our first responders, police and fire, where they were not allowed to, or there was no follow-up, there was no feedback to police or fire if they came in contact with a positive COVID-19 patient. So now the governor is requiring these hospitals to report that to these agencies, because that was a big question from all the mayors in Arizona, is why weren't these our police and fire not being notified if there was positive cases. So that came through this afternoon.
And let me see here. There are about 4 or 5, 3 of them here. Let me, it's important. We care about our police and fire. I don't know if, Chief Walters, did you see anything on any executive orders this afternoon?
I know that they had sent something out addressing a specific issue, but the specifics are, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
Really haven't had an issue with this as of yet. And the county's been very forthright with us on information that we come available, so
So, and Chief, just for those listening in that he didn't have a microphone, but Chief Walter says the county's been very helpful in giving the information that we need, and he has not had a chance to review it. Neither have I on the details. But we'll take a look at that. But we do. I think the Chief echoes what I've seen is County Health has been doing a real good job of being upfront and saying what they can say and saying what they can't say, because they have responsibilities too.
Yeah, and I agree. Our Gila County Health Department has done an excellent job. I think this issue was having to do with a lot of valley hospitals and departments in the area. That's where the issue came
I know they've struggled down there, and even before before this meeting, I was able to get a quick update on issues around the latest press release, and so. So no, we thank the county and their staff, Michael Driscoll, Josh, and the rest of them.
Next, we have Finance Director Jeannie Segro will present on possible impact of COVID-19 on the city's financial position. Jeannie, good to see you.
Good to see you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me? Is this thing working? Okay. So, we felt it was important to bring a brief presentation to you to let you know that we are watching very carefully what's happening as any possible fallout from the COVID-19 and how it affects our revenue sources. Of course, it's incredibly early to have anything definite, but we wanted to instill a sense of confidence in you that I'm keeping a close eye on it and trying to come up with formulas and ways to manage it and identify it and see what can be done about it. So in saying that, we've put together a projected revenue shortfalls PowerPoint. Give you a little background. In anticipation of possible revenue reductions due to COVID-19, staff would like to share with you the following projections. The following projections have been put together as the beginning stages of proposing budget deficit scenarios. It is crucial to understand the potential loss to the current budget in order to make educated decisions when adopting the future budget. The speed of the crisis is such that we have limited data. Therefore, these are preliminary evaluations based on analysis of the information at hand. Methodology that we used. The goal is to determine the impact on the contingency/fund balance in the current fiscal year budget 2019-2020. Broad-based assumptions are a 32.5% loss of revenue for the 3 months of the fourth quarter. Staff cross-checked revenue assumptions by business type based on revenue collections from the previous year. So what that means is we looked at what the revenue collections were in April of last year and cross-checked that. The next slide shows you we applied, due to the businesses that have been closed from the executive orders or whatever, how they've been affected, we applied a percentage of reduction that we felt was fairly accurate to those types of businesses and came up with a formula which...
And Jeannie, just to let you know, we did print out hand copies that they have of the input. So for council to know, the slide that you had is also a handout.
You got the color version.
You know, those color printers are expensive though.
It's a rainbow.
So then moving to the next slide, this shows you that the first column is the current adopted budget in general fund only. This is overhead, operations and maintenance, excuse me. And so the adopted budget for all the departments in the general fund was $10,120,855. We're projecting at this point, based on the percentages that you saw on the previous slide, that we would possibly fall short $821,000 in revenue for the last 3 months of this budget year. That makes the next column what the revised total budget would be for general fund. So if we spent that whole $9,299,000, then we would have to be pulling some money out of contingency. I'm skipping a column though. So the budget used as of 3/31, and this will change tomorrow based on the accounts payable that we're going to run the checks tomorrow. There's a lot of, it's so early in the process, there's a lot of invoices in this check run that are February and March. So that number will change, but as of 2 days ago, we had spent $635,206 of the current budget. We looked at CIP, what's available there that hasn't been spent yet. And again, this is only general fund, so excluding any enterprise CIP. We feel that we could sweep in $334,000 from CIP to help offset the projected $821,000 shortfall. Having said all of that, we would possibly need to get $487,000 out of contingency to get through the remainder of the current budget year. That's good in the sense that we've got, after the previous contingency requests that you guys have approved during the course of this budget year, we still have $1,542,000 available in contingency. So we wouldn't have to go into the fund balance. I don't see us having to go into the fund balance. I probably shouldn't say that at this point, but we'd have to spend $1,542,000 before we would go into fund balance.
Question, on top of the 487?
Yes. Well, we're anticipating that we would need 487,000 from contingency. We have 1,500,000 available in contingency.
Okay, so that brings us down to approximately 1.1.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a question. But before you go to the next slide, what is the asterisk next to administration?
That 1,105,000, that does not include the 1,651,000 that we had budgeted in admin for the contingency item. So I pulled that out so you could see the budget without the 1,651,000 that we originally budgeted for contingency is 10,120,000. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I want to just reiterate a couple of key features of this. It's important to know, I think for everybody to know that we're watching, the bottom fallout of our revenue projections. We project revenues, closing down businesses and this stay at home. We were not overspending our budgets. Our revenue projections, our revenue collection is collapsing on us. We use these numbers in order to try to determine that. I think with these numbers we came out about 30%. We went 33% reduction in the fourth quarter. We want to be conservative. We use these numbers are only general fund, because enterprise is different fund than money, and we just frankly didn't have time to pull together both sides of that. But the general fund is the one that is most crucial, because that's a fixed amount of money, and that's the one that's sales tax driven and going down. If you look at this is designed with the anticipation that we will spend our budget nearly up to the 10.1 million. We have not calculated any non-critical reductions into operational spending in this, and we're going to talk about that going forward. But if there are net reductions in non-critical spending, that'll help lessen that 487 that we may need to come out of contingency. So we, like I say, we're very conservative on the 33% drop in revenue. We haven't tried to come together. We haven't included any, non-critical cuts. We also haven't included any federal monies that will come back to cover direct costs for COVID response. It's complicated. We're still not sure on the formulas, but I will tell you we're tracking that as we would any federal contract. That may also help out. But we took all the bad stuff, packed it in here, didn't try to offset it with any good news, and that's where we're at. So, and we won't know until this budget is put to bed and we run all the numbers. At some point in time, council will be asked to approve a budget transfer from our contingency fund to backfill this loss in revenue. And the point of this is to make you aware when that day comes that we remember that day in April when we talked about the fact that this is what we did. Hopefully you'll slap us on the back and say, wow, that was only half of what we thought, and we were really good and things turned out. But I want you to know that this is what we think is probably the most negative impact on there. And it's all, Jeannie and I laugh because it was probably about 2 years ago, you put a contingency policy formula together, and I'm like, oh, just $500,000. And she's like, no, 15%, wasn't it? 15%, and that 1.6 represents 15% of our general fund budget. And it's a good thing that you listen to Jeannie and not me on that one. So I just wanted to highlight the kind of the philosophy behind this. We'll be tracking, we'll be updating it. This is not for approval, but this is just informational, so you know the where we're at and how we're thinking. So with that, Jeannie, I pitch it back to you to the next slide.
Fernando, you got a question?
Yeah, I have this sheet that was handed out with these projected decreases in percentages in revenue from the sales of like liquor, but groceries have actually, still hard to get something off a grocery shelf because they've been bought out. So is this just a guesstimate, or is this based on any kind of actual number? Because it seems to me like grocery sales are actually through the roof. And then I go to the hardware store about every other day, and they've been busier than ever too. So these just guesstimates? And
They're just guesstimates.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think in looking at this sheet, and it's also on the slide. Jeannie, can you go back to the slide? Mm-hmm. Okay. We were looking about 33%. I should put numbers by this. The bottom of the 30% number, all of their general retail. General retail, I think everybody agrees about a quarter to a third is going to be cut. That is over 50% of the types of businesses we have. The highly recognizable ones are pocketed in the other. I think you could say, we probably have about a 15% of drop in people coming up here and passing through and not stopping. So I think, going out to Roosevelt, well, I don't know. We've never done this before. So we're trying to be on the conservative side. So we thought 15 was conservative. And then you get down into bars and restaurants, motels. I spoke with the number 2 finance person in Mesa, and got his numbers, and they're using 80% on restaurant, hotels, 90% on bars. I think we're a little bit better on hotels. I think we still have a lot of workers that are staying, so we went down to 75%. I didn't know where to go on cars and autos. I didn't get a chance to make those phone calls, so we're trying to make some estimated. But I wanted to make sure that our 33% was realistic, and I think these are very conservative, but they still fall within if these are actually happen, we're still, our 33% covers this dramatic of loss. We keep our fingers crossed that it's not this dramatic, and I've heard incidental information that it may not be, but I think since we've never done this before and we want to be conservative, I'd rather be conservative and have better news when this all shakes out. But it was just kicking around numbers and trying to figure this out with these numbers, and looking what other cities are doing.
And Paul, we also need to put it out there also with a estimated 75% loss in motels. Our bed tax recipients ought to prepare also for their cuts and, and what we're going to be collecting as far as for their quarterly, the last quarter of their funding that we give to them.
Right. And so we on bed tax, we collect our normal 2.3% and then an additional 3%. And so we're projecting, well, gosh, yeah, there's going to be a hit there, definitely. We haven't had the time or ability to get with our bed tax partners and let them know. But when, Jeannie, when would we write the check for fourth quarter? It probably wouldn't be until July or August.
The bed tax is all predicated on what we collect on city sales tax also. And we write the checks when the bed tax organizations submit their requests for whatever quarter, along with their documentation. So we don't have a set time that we write the checks. It's just whenever the bed tax people get their requests in for disbursement.
Yeah. So, and if they're, I'm sure they're aware that, everybody is fully aware that the activities and the reductions, but we'll have to have that conversation when the time comes and when we get close.
Ready?
Jeannie, going back to the slide where it shows the CIP transfers, excuse me, is that all of CIP that's available, or is that a portion of CIP that you feel can be swept at this time?
It's a portion that we feel can be swept at this time. It's almost all of it, but some has been encumbered already, and it hasn't actually been spent, but it's in the process of being spent. And again, this is general fund CIP only, so.
Okay, thank you.
And I will tell you that this is going to be kind of an art to try to figure out what's important. We're saying in this slide, we're saying we're not showing any cuts in operational money, but we're showing a sweep of all CIP money. Okay, there may be police, for example, there may be cuts that we can still make in the police budget operational, but there may be some needs, police and fire, to sweep CIP money, or to take CIP money and spend that. Is he? I forgot he's over there. Anyway, so, and we'll address that when there's a slide coming up here that will address that. But I would say this is a snapshot in time, but we're going to make decisions. This is not something to be voted on, blessed, and bound by. This is a overall picture of where we are at one point in time, what we're trying to accomplish, and we're going to do our best.
Charlie?
So just tell me if I'm understanding this correctly, Jeannie. The police has to take a $143,000 hit, and the fire has to take a almost $58,000 hit?
Well, probably, and I don't have that paperwork in front of me. My guess would be that maybe police had more of a CIP budget to begin with than fire. Also, fire has spent quite a bit of their CIP budget already, so.
So let me.
Can I ask the police chief a question?
No, can I? Before you do, can I answer the question? Because he doesn't know this, and so we've been working pretty quickly. But we have identified $35,000 worth of, I think, essential needs that probably will be pulled from the CIP item that need to be spent. I've had roving conversations, and this came after that. But again, if it's needed for COVID or if it's needed for essential services, it will happen. But go ahead and answer your question now.
So my question to the police chief was, is the Sholo cars, has that money been spent, and has it all been, we only have one car, are we still going to be able to receive the rest of the cars, or is that money in this?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sorry to stand up before, I was a little bit relaxed. To answer your question, Councilwoman Giles, we've received all the vehicles already, and Sholo's been paid in full.
Okay.
So everything moving forward is things that would come out of our budget or out of fleet budget to get those up and running. But we're solid on that.
Okay. My other question for police, fire can't answer this, but you might know this. for fire. So given all that's going on in these circumstances, you all need much more extra supplies than what you would normally use. I don't want to see that being removed.
Yeah, Councilwoman Giles, I've been heavily involved, along with all the other directors, in the decision-making process for the budget. We all see the potential shortfall because of the lack of revenue within the city, just like every other community in the state and across the country is going to see. We're all part of the same team. I was just in a position that this year we were able to offer up all of our CIP money with the exception of what the city manager mentioned earlier, just because of timing. And the city's been really good to the police department, and the city manager has taken great care of our first responders, both myself and Gary. So we're not concerned about it moving forward. It'll work itself out. As far as the actual protective equipment, those are all at the forefront of everything that we're doing, whether it's Gary or myself, or the county or the city manager or stuff. We all see the need for this, and that hasn't fallen to the wayside. That's at the very forefront. The things that from the police department, I can't speak for the fire, but for the police department, like, we're just postponing like phase 2 of the remodel and some of the things like that. But the critical needs that we have, Paul has been very good to sit down and discuss this with me. I've worked with my team to make sure that we're identifying things that we specifically need, and he's been very good about making sure that the critical things that we're needing, he's ensuring that we're able to continue moving forward on. So we're fine. This is just one of those things that we all have to play together well to get this through, because we're a team. It's not individual departments. So that's where we're at. And from my experience working with the other directors, they've all been outstanding in trying to make sure that everybody's kicking in, because we know we're in it for the long haul.
That's good to hear.
Thank you. And Jeannie, do you want to pick it up with?
Sure. Okay, so I think we're finished with this slide. Like Paul said, the last column is federal funds through DEMA, and there's nothing in there because we're not real sure at this moment what our options are on that. I haven't had any time to read details. I have lots to read, but I haven't. At this point, we're tracking it very carefully. We're tracking expenses, and we're tracking labor and ERE that's associated with COVID. Okay, moving on. Takeaways. The available contingency amount after the contingency transfers that have already been approved is $1.5 million. Based on all assumptions, our projection is that COVID-19 may require a budget transfer out of contingency in the amount of $487,000. Staff is not projecting a need of a transfer in an amount greater than the available budgeted contingency. This scenario that we've presented to you tonight is based on the general fund being fully spending the current budget capacity, and it is general fund only. Additional savings may be realized through the ongoing implementation of reduction in non-critical spending. And as Chief Walters pointed out, we have been working closely with all of the departments, and everybody's just been great about putting off non-essential purchases at this time. Not included in this spreadsheet is possible reimbursement from FEMA. So that's just a recap. Non-critical spending reductions. Sweeping of non-critical, non-encumbered CIP. Freezing of non-critical operational expenses. Non-critical will be determined on a case-by-case basis by the city manager. And be assured the city response to COVID-19 remains the highest priority and will not be affected by spending reductions.
So Mr. Mayor, members of council, and Jeannie, like I say, our goal is to preserve budget our primary goal is to be a responsive city that meets the needs of the residents, and that we're able and prepared and equipped to do our jobs. And that is a conversation I'll have with every department head, every manager, and make sure that that we balance those two needs, to be frugal at this point, but to be equipped to do our job. And we will continue to have these conversations as we roll through this. So and that's what's reflected in that. I think it's very important to know that it is our highest priority to make sure that we are responsive to the needs, and that includes economic development. That includes, even to a point, library. If things we can do to get virtual going. If it's something that's going to help out, we're going to look at it as something that we probably need to do now. And every day somebody has a new idea or a different way we can do things, and so we can stay involved and engage with our residents and making sure that we provide the services they expect and that they deserve, and that you would want us to provide.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Mike?
So Paul, you're going to be the sole determinant person on the non-critical spending?
Yes.
What if you get into a situation where the department disagrees with you? You're final?
I'm
You don't
final.
have to get involved with it? I mean, if somebody calls us, we just tell them, you're fine.
Yes.
That's what I will do.
Okay.
Thank you.
So some of the caveats. It is unprecedented to have such extreme drop-offs in revenue in such a short amount of time. There's very little baseline material available. We've communicated, I've reached out to finance directors in other cities, big and small, gotten a great response from people to see how they're going to be handling this. Most of them have said they don't really have a plan at the moment. They're anxious to see our PowerPoint. But we have had some response. City of Phoenix responded and told me what their thoughts are. And of course, Phoenix is a lot bigger than we are. But all said, it is important to develop some sort of projections for decision-making purposes, and that's what we're trying to do here.
And
We
Mr.
have
Mayor,
to start somewhere.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we've been watching Mesa. They have already. They won't say they're already having to do realignments with staffing in library, the arts, and Parks and Rec, and they're looking at October to come back up. As Brian and Mesa said, once the government lifts their requirements, it's going to take a while for businesses to recover. And as I've said to a couple of you, if you step on grass, then you lift your foot up. It takes a while for that grass to come back up, but it will come back up, and hopefully all blades will come back up. So there's two metrics we got to look at. When will the government allow this phase roll off, and then when will our businesses recover? And so that's what we're looking at is when we can get back up and running. On City of Phoenix is talking about in their phase 2, they're talking about 25% reductions throughout the budget. I talked to the finance director of City of Tempe. They're looking at between 18-22% as what they're projecting in reductions. Mesa is about the same place at about 25%. There, so I think we're in good company, and we're a little bit higher on the 33%. But I think that's safer, and then we let it happen. So everybody we talk to, it's a lot of kicking dirt and trying to figure this out. So thank you.
Okay, the impacts on the 2020-21 budget process. Staff will lay out a modified budget process for fiscal year 2021 at the April 20th meeting. The revenue projections for fiscal year 2021 are undeterminable at this time. We will bring forward a baseline budget with provisional budget line items that would be triggered by the meeting of revenue expectations as the economy rebounds. So it'll be like a layered budget. Any questions?
Questions for Jeannie?
Good presentation.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been, with all of these electronic meetings and stuff, it's been a learning experience. But it's been good too, in a way. Like I said, I reached out to so many finance directors, and I like to focus on the smaller cities, you know, Camp Verde, Cottonwood, Bisbee, places like that. And so it's been nice to touch base with everybody and get their input also.
I also want to say thank you for that great report we got, face to face with the auditor.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Jeannie, I have a question, a comment. Just to find, I know we've been listening to Phoenix, City of Phoenix. They have 75% of their revenue comes out of sales tax. What is our projected amount that we get from sales tax, percentage of our budget?
I don't know.
Well, then,
I wasn't prepared for that one.
the direct collection of city sales tax is runs about 50% of our general fund all.
Yes, we projected, I think, 5.9 in city sales tax and the 0.3%. There's 4 items that fall in that category. And we projected 5.9. We are at 3 point something right now through the third quarter.
Right.
So when you consider that our budget is 10 million in general fund, then it would be 50%.
So, and then we also get additional funds through the state shared sales tax are shared with us based on population. So we have direct collection of sales tax, and then sales tax collected statewide that are redistributed to us by population. That's why do your census. And it's never too late. There's still plenty of time to do your census so we can make sure we get our fair share. And so it is, I would say probably about, not as much as Phoenix, probably about 60%.
Thank you.
But we should probably hone that number and get a better answer, and we'll try to get back to you with a little bit more accurate answer.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you.
We'll go to our consent calendar. In matters listed under the consent calendar considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Prior to consideration of the consent agenda, the mayor will ask whether any member of the public wishes to remove a public hearing item for separate considerations. Member of the council and/or staff may remove any item for separate consideration. Item A, consideration of waiver of section 2-4-10A prior discussion rule to allow action on the balance of the consent agenda. 1, accounts payable, $408,313.85. 2, consideration of approval of council minutes, December 17, 2019 council meeting minutes, and consideration of agreements and purchases of less than $25,000. Do we have anybody from staff or the public or council wants to remove any of these items?
Mr. Mayor, if there are no questions or comments, I motion that we accept the consent agenda as read.
Second.
We have a motion, a second for approval of the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion passed. New business. Item A, discussion and consideration of Resolution 1810, which would authorize the Water Utility Office to deem uncollectible water debt in the amount of $5,708.32 for the period of July 1st through June 30th. And Shelley, can you read Resolution 1810? And it'll be Jody presenting? Okay.
Hi, Jody.
Hey, Jody, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm going to read the resolution.
Right.
Resolution number 1810, A resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Globe, Gila County, Arizona, providing for treatment of certain debts owed the city which have been deemed potentially uncollectible and removing same from the records as assets of the city of Globe and providing direction for future treatment of same. Is council pleased with the reading?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. It's that time of year again. I'm here to present you with the fiscal year end 19 collectible funds paid off. First of all, the steps that we take for collection prior to writing the accounts off include always trying custom by phone
Breaking up.
and notices, letters, and then submitting an account to the claims court if we have a valid reporting address.
Jody, can you hang on just for one quick second? Mr. Mayor, members of council, I think it was breaking up there in the beginning. Or do we want to have Jody go back and start again, or are we okay with where we're at?
I think we saw it on the screen. I think we're okay.
Yeah.
If you're seeing it on the screen, you're okay. Okay, Jody, go ahead. Go real slow, and we should be able to pick it up. And they've seen the slides, so they'll be okay.
Okay. The total loss of utility revenue this year is $5,708.32 that we'll be writing off. That's about 0.2% of the city's metered water sales and sewer fees annual revenues. And it's approximately 1% of the 3,620 accounts that we handle monthly here at the city. And of the 40 accounts, 30 of these were renters and 10 were homeowners. Are we doing okay?
We're doing good.
Sounds
You're
better.
much clearer. Thank you.
Okay. In this same 12-month period, staff did collect $244.75 in bad debt that we previously wrote off. And most of those were collected when a person came in and wanted to start service with us again. And that's all I have for you. Anybody have any questions?
Ready?
Jody, this is Freddie Rios. My question is, all these uncollectibles, this would be after deposits had been recovered or expended, and I guess a follow-up to that would be, do you think if our deposit rates are adequate at this point?
This is the amount that's uncollected after deposits are applied. That is correct. We could look at collecting a higher deposit at the time of turn-on. We do collect $150 now from renters, but we can prove that they own the property, then we do not collect deposits at this time.
Yeah, I'm seeing that it's trending in years past that I've noticed that it's the renters that really are the ones that attribute to the biggest portion of the debt. Is that not accurate?
That is correct, and the code does say that we can collect 3 times the average monthly bill. Without somebody living in a home for some time, we don't really know what their average is, so we kind of use a base, but we have had rate increases since we started that, and we have never increased the amount of deposit.
Okay, thank you. I think you're still doing a great job here. I mean, I remember years past that the uncollectibles were much higher than this, so.
Thank you. I do believe that this is the lowest amount of write-offs that we've had in several years. It has been going down each year, and this is pretty low.
Yeah, good job. Thank you.
Yeah, Jody, I remember that as high as 12,000 one of the couple of years back that we had uncollectible. Just a question, can we trend or track, is it the same individuals that that may be the violators of this, that don't pay their water, or is it just, it's just different people in different times?
It's just different people. There are some of those repeat offenders that come back and we do collect their previous, and then they end up leaving again and have the same issues. But when a repeat, or somebody that has already left us with a debt before it comes back to start service, we usually do up that deposit on those people, so they do have to pay out their deposit.
Any other questions, comments? So we need a motion to pass this forward to the next meeting?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass this resolution to the next meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Jody, for a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
Bye.
You're still on camera. Jody gets very nervous on doing presentations like that.
Item B, consideration to approve Resolution 1811, authorizing the police department to apply for Victim Specialist Program grant in the amount of $90,000 to fully fund a victim specialist position for a period of 3 years, and request to waive Section 2-4-10 prior discussion rule. Sergeant Steve Williams, or Chief Walters.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sergeant Williams here in case I fumble, and he can come and help me out. So what we're asking is the approval to apply for a grant through the Department of Justice, Office of Victims of Crime. This is a grant that's available to local, state, and private agencies. The grant is for a law enforcement victim specialist program to supplement the Gila County Victims Advocacy Center, or Advocacy Victim Advocate, and the Advocacy Center that we are currently working on establishing here in the city of Globe. It's something that we've been working on for the last year and a half. We've written a number of grants for it, and we're moving forward. The employee would be a victim advocate. The advocate would work jointly with the Gila County Attorney's Office advocate and the child victim advocate with the child help to enhance and expand victim services. One of the most critical things that we can do in law enforcement is provide resources to victims of crime. Having worked for a number of years with the advocacy centers and having been with the department that had victim advocates, I have firsthand knowledge of the benefit it is to victims of crime and their families going through a very difficult time. This is a $90,000 per year grant. It is a 3-year grant which is renewable. This is a similar grant that I've dealt with in the past. It is not a matching grant. This is strictly fully funded. The grant covers salary, training, equipment, etc. Sergeant Williams actually worked with Jeannie to establish a baseline salary that would cover all the benefits and everything. And we're looking at a starting salary between or a salary range between $35,000 and $45,000 per year to cover all expenses, to include equipment that we need for them, desktops, computers, and training that we would want for them, and retirement and medical. The grant deadline is April 20th of this year, and the start date, if awarded the grant, would be October 1st of this year. Any questions?
Chief, is this a sworn or non-sworn position?
This is a civilian position.
Civilian position, okay.
Other than the advocate that is with the county attorney's office, I don't believe there's another one in the region. And this would be tremendously beneficial to us as an organization for further investigations, but more importantly, providing immediate resources to any victims of crime that we deal with at that level.
Mike?
Chief, you said it's going to cover all benefits and expenses for this individual?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, and it's a 3-year grant. Hopefully it'll be renewed and we continue to employ this individual, or?
Correct. We would reapply 2 years into the grant for the upcoming cycle and continue to cycle through it. At some point in time, obviously, at some point in time, if we lost the grant, we would have to make a decision as a city, and to evaluate how we can continue the program moving forward.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just so you know, when we advertise for this, we will advertise it as a grant-funded position. That doesn't mean that we can't pick it up later. It doesn't mean that we won't get additional grant funding, but people do understand that in a scenario where funding runs out and we're not able to pick up the money that the position goes away. We'd hope that would never happen, but just on the mechanic side of HR, that's how you handle a position that's fully grant funded like this. But on the good side, I think it's so important for us to have this position. I don't think council members may not all know the many times our city staff steps in to help people who have been victims of a crime, whether it's getting a ride, finding a car, strangers that get in a traffic accident and are stuck here until Enterprise opens the next day, and we help them get where they need to be. People who have had the worst day of their life now need help, putting a door back together or finding, accommodations until they can get their family circle. It's a bridge between when the police do their job and they leave, and the families and the person is ready to pick up. It's not just the big events, but it's hundreds of small encounters that people have with activities where they are victims of someone else. And so this is a high level quality of life that will pay many dividends for the resident city of Globe.
Chief, one more question. Is this a regional or a statewide competitive grant?
It's available to any of the agencies that apply for it, so I'm assuming there's some level of competitiveness to it. I'm under the impression we're the only one in the region that's actually applying for it. We have reached out, so council's familiar, when it comes to the Advocacy Center, we've reached out to all of our fellow law enforcement agencies, not just in the immediate region, but Payson, Safford. There's nothing like this. So if you're a victim of a crime and we have to get you to examination, we're either taking you to Tucson or Mesa. If you need to speak with somebody concerning whether it's something as simple as the border protection or something, you're either talking to one of my officers or the county advocate. We don't have an advocate for the police department at this point in time. They're kind of that guiding light for victims, and normally it's significant crimes, but they're that guiding light for them to kind of get through the process, the court process, or other areas of that, and identify resources and things for them. I've seen the benefit of this on a first-hand basis, working for as many years as I did down in the valley, and it's hugely beneficial to the people that we serve. It would be a great asset to the community of Globe. It would be a tremendous asset to the police department itself. Yep. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to talk about it.
I have a comment.
Shirley?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. It's unfortunate we live in these times where something like this is necessary, but we indeed do. And yeah, I too have seen how much a program like this can help victims of crime. So I think this is sorely needed here.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we approve the City of Globe Police Department to apply for this grant. I mean, there's what, $11 million out there that are trying to get rid of. We should have a pretty good chance.
Score high on the grant app.
You want to include waive the rules, Mike?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I second that.
Mr. Mayor, for the record, before you call for the vote, we need to read the resolution into the...
Oh, sorry. We didn't read it, did we?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, resolution number 1811, a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Globe, Gila County, Arizona, pertaining to the submission of projects for consideration of the Law Enforcement Base Victim Specialist Program and appointing the city's chief of police as the city's agent to represent the city's interest in processing of related grants. Is council pleased with that reading?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Can I read the motion again?
No, we got a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Chief.
Mayor and council, thank you, but before I leave the, I'm not sure what this is, the table. I did want to mention one thing, and just show recognition to Detective Sergeant Steve Williams. When I first started for you all as the chief of police, one of the first meetings I had with Sergeant Williams in discussing the needs of the criminal investigation section and the need to create an advocacy center within the community of Globe. Steve has really stepped out on a limb and really dove into waters he was completely unfamiliar with, writing grants. He's created some great relationships with Neil at the Coast Valley Hospital, with Child Health, and agencies around the state. And he's done a phenomenal job writing grants and identifying needs and identifying pathways to let us be successful. And without all his hard work, we would not be in the place today where we're at, on the cusp of opening something like this up and being able to staff it, hopefully by the end of the year. And it really goes to show that the talent that has been untapped within organizations, and he has just really stepped up to the plate. So I wanted to say thank you to Sergeant Williams and his group, and really stepping up to the plate and working towards making all this a reality. Thank you.
Super. Thank you.
Steve. Okay, next we have item C, consideration of council to ratify the submission of the Assistant to Firefighters Micro Grant for the purchase of radio equipment in the amount of $48,315 and the City of Code Section 2, and to waive City Code Section 2-4-10 prior discussion rule. Chief Robinson.
Gary Robinson is currently unavailable.
Let me text Gary Robinson.
You didn't get the message, I guess, huh?
No. If you, let's go ahead. I'm familiar with, to the point, I believe that it was, let me do a quick review study here. So we have already put PD tower or PD antenna on the Buffalo Hills site. This would allow us, and you got money to put the fire tower up there, or antenna up there. And so I think that they've already applied for this, and I'm probably butchering this pretty bad. So let's see here, but I don't believe he needs to run the, let's see, is he ratifying this? Yes. So yeah, so they've already gotten the money, the 43, and so it's important. It helps with cover the shadows in the area. Buffalo Tower has worked well for PD, and so having fire on Buffalo Tower is going to help. And we've gotten the money, so that's why we're looking to ratify the grant and waive the rules. Is that?
I don't believe I think he's just submitted the grant.
Okay, ratify the submission.
Yes.
Okay.
We haven't been awarded the grant yet.
No, but to ratify the submission. Again, if we want to make sure that we get these in on time. So that's a pretty good butcher job of Gary's. Yeah.
Yep.
Which one is this Buffalo Hill? Where Arlington Heights, is that over by the community center, those tanks?
Yeah. And then we were on, what was the tank that the Arizona?
Arlington.
Yeah, it was Arlington, yeah. So, and then we did have, yeah.
I can't remember you sold it.
I know, but I, out of sight, out of mind. It's like we did have a lot of our equipment on the Pinnell Mountain Tower. It folded in an ice storm about 2 years ago, and they did not resurrect that tower because of permitting issues. But Dale, who was the person from Creative Communication that we've been working with? Do you want to talk about that?
Well, we've been working with Bill House. Who's the,
Come here and I'll back up about 5 minutes.
6 feet? 3 feet?
You give Gary another call?
Is he there? Okay.
Too late.
Here, Robinson is currently unavailable.
Mayor and Council, we've been working with Bill House and Motorola to identify a number of things. So I think what this grant is for is to put him up on the tower that we're currently on right now, which has absolutely addressed a number of issues with our radios. However, you will be seeing us again in the future because we're looking at establishing ability to put our boated receivers that we already own, but we'd like to locate them probably up on Pinal. We're exploring different pathways to improve our capabilities. By moving from one side of the ridge, Arlington Heights, out to the other side, we solved some of the shadowing issues, but we created others. So we're trying to come up with a solution for all that. However, PD and the fire department are working hand in hand with Bill, with Motorola, and we've reached out and talked to Pinal County, and now we've got them involved. And so we're looking at a number of different options that are potentially available as we move forward. But for this particular one, it's to go out to the Crown Tower, I believe, for Gary's, which is a huge benefit as it is because of its location. Hopefully that did Gary some justice.
He's asking for a new repeater and to move it from Arlington to Buffalo.
Correct. What we did when we put the antenna up on the tower, since we were paying the money to climb up there anyway, I think we bought and mounted a fire antenna, but there's no repeater. It's not hooked up to anything. So this will be the repeater that'll go in the box that we've leased through AT&T, and so it's not the actual, which is good. You don't want to pay to climb that tower too many times. But this will be updating the equipment, and I think there's more information. He told me about the frequencies that we're using and things like that. But he'll be back when we accept this and we can explain it better. But my apologies for not having him lined up, and I think he owes the chief a couple masks. So.
Well, we'll be voting on this as a waive to also waive it, to ratify it. We got to ratify it tonight.
Yeah, ratify the application.
Yep.
So.
Mr. Mayor, there's no other questions or comments. The motion to ratify the submission of the assistance. The firefighters might be able to purchase of radio equipment in the amount of $48,415 in wages. Fire discussion will end for 2-4-10A.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to ratify the Assistant Firefighters Grant. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. So next we have discussion and consideration of Ordinance 862, an ordinance to annex approximately 26 acres of land from unincorporated Gila County into the city of Globe. Shelley, can you read Ordinance 862, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 862, an ordinance extending and increasing the corporate limits of the city of Globe, Gila County, state of Arizona, pursuant to the provisions of Title IX, Chapter 4, Article 7, Arizona Revised Statutes, and amendments thereto, by annexing thereto certain territory contiguous to the city of Globe. Is council pleased with that reading?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is the first read on the ordinance. The ordinance will have to come back when it comes back on the meeting of the 28th. We'll have additional information. We met with CU Monday. We had a Zoom meeting with representatives, and they are still putting together their PAD for this. I would, in the discussions, there's two different factors. There's a pro forma that'll be the benefit to the city that we will bring forward on the 28th. It shows why this is this annexation will benefit the city and the capacities that will be needed. Not to be confused with a eventual development agreement, which will be the partnership between the city and the developers on helping on what we can do, limited though it is, what we can do in making that connection and providing for them. There's a long road to hoe on the planned area development as it goes through planning and zoning, and we talked today about giving a timeline of the next steps, but the standalone annexation, bringing this property into the city, along with the documentation that we have the ability to provide utilities to it, and the advantages of that will come forward. The questions about the number of houses and the type of housing, the density, and some of those they're still hashing that out. So we will give you a snapshot update on the 28th when we come forward. So we didn't have any additional planned presentation on the details of this. We ask that you move it forward to the final meeting, and then we'll have a more complete presentation.
Well, I move that we approve this reading and move it forward to the next council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move this item forward to the next discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Item E, discussion and consideration of ordinance 863, acceptance of price bids or quotes, requirements and restrictions. Shelley, can you read ordinance number 863, please?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Ordinance number 863, an ordinance of the City of Globe, Arizona, amending the Globe City Code by amending Article 3-5 purchasing and adding Section 3-5-28, acceptance of price bids or quotes, requirements and restrictions. Is council pleased with that reading?
Yes.
Jeannie, are you ready to take this?
Sure.
Okay.
So this ordinance is being brought before the council just to provide some clarity on the city's purchasing policies and the submission of bids. Most of this stuff is already in our policy in various places, but we felt that if we put it all in one place, it would just provide more clarity. So we are requesting to add a new section, 3.3-5-28, acceptance of price bids or quotes, requirements and restrictions. And for the benefit of people who are watching this live, I'll read the items on here. Number 1, any price bids or quotes for goods or services with a value of $5,000 or greater received from vendors, local or otherwise, by the City of Globe must be in writing and must reference specifications on which the bids or quotes are based. Number 2, any bid or proposal shall be evaluated pursuant to sections 3-5-15 and 3-5-17 of this code. Number 3, prior to the date and time for a bid or proposal opening, a proposer or bidder may withdraw a proposal or bid or correct a mistake by modifying the proposal or bid. A proposer or bidder who discovers a mistake in a proposal or bid after proposal or bid opening may request to correct the mistake. If the City of Globe agrees that correcting the mistake is in the best interest of the city may allow the mistake to be corrected and proceed under sections 3-5-15 and 3-5-17 of this code to either award the contract or cancel the solicitation. If the city determines that correcting the mistake is not in the best interest of the city may proceed under section 3-5-15 and 3-5-17 of this code, evaluate all proposals and bids based on the terms of the submitted proposals and bids, and either award the contract or cancel the solicitation. If the city awards the contract to the proposer or bidder who submitted the proposal or bid with a mistake, the city must require the proposer or bidder to comply with the terms of its proposal or bid. Number 4, except as provided in section 3-5-28, paren 3, close paren. Once a bid or proposal is accepted from a vendor, no additional proposals or bids from that vendor will be eligible for consideration unless the city formally rejects all bids and proposals and restarts the solicitation process. Number 5, under no circumstances will any bid or proposal be accepted for consideration by the City of Globe once bids or proposals are opened. Number 6, the City Council retains the right to reject all bids and proposals and direct staff to seek additional bids or proposals in compliance with City of Globe Procurement Code. Any questions?
Questions?
And
I did want to point out a couple of things in our existing city code. In section 3-5-4, purpose and goals, the purpose is to allow the city to procure the highest quality goods and services for the city while receiving the best value within a reasonable time period in order to best meet the operational needs of the city. So basically what that's saying is, it's our duty as the fiduciary oversight of the taxpayer money to get the best deal that we can for the City of Globe and award through a fair process and award to the lowest, most qualified responsive bidder. We do also have a section in our city code for local business preference. And that says, on all purchases, local businesses shall be entitled to a preference equal to the combined city and county transaction privilege tax rate to the extent allowable by law. So when we do have local bidders and non-local bidders in competition for a project that we've put out, we do the math, and if there is a 3.3% difference, the local vendor would get that bid if they were lower by 3.3%. That hasn't happened to date, but we've come close a couple of times, and we do the math, and it just isn't there. And then finally, I wanted to point out Section 3-5-17, which was referenced throughout the resolution. Authorized awards shall be made to the lowest and most qualified and responsible supplier whose bid, quotation, or offer conforms to the procurement requirements and criteria set forth in the city solicitation and is deemed to be in the best interest of the city. So again, we have a very large procurement code that we have to follow, and anytime we can identify clarifications that need to be made to it, that's a good thing to do, in my opinion.
so, Mr. Mayor, members of council, this addresses some of the questions that arose, I think, 2 meetings ago about additional bids coming in late, multiple bids, both the flooring and the pickup trucks. And while we follow best practices and it's in there, this adds a section that directs these types of situations with the submission, the acceptance, and the opening of bids. And it covers multiple. It covers both the 5,025, which is informal, 25 to 50, which is formal, and then a public solicitation, which is a formal bid opening. And so that's why there's a lot there. But again, I think it clarifies for both the city, for the council, for staff, and for vendors when a bid is accepted and when it is final.
So the vendors get an explanation of these sections that we just added when these bids go out then?
I think we do our best to think of what they may not know and give them warnings and things like that. I mean, Jeannie has a lot of, when she does the bids, there's a lot of clarifying statements. If you don't do this, this won't happen. You must do this, and some of those. But at these lower level bids, when, you know, and we have other people collecting bids, you know, we do our best. But I think there's some responsibility by people trying to do business with the city to understand our code and ask the question.
So the 3.3%, that's in the difference you're talking about, the county tax is 1% then?
County tax 1%, our tax is 2.3.
3%, okay.
And so what the way you imagine that is, if we were to buy that locally, that money would be paid back into our coffers and the county's coffers. So you could legitimately it's a direct savings. And so you could easily justify subtracting that off the price. And if it brings that down over the outside, the bid from somebody not within our taxing area, that's how you would do the math on that.
You're giving the local vendors an incentive to be competitive with bigger vendors as well.
Well,
Which is good.
yeah.
It allows the local people to know that they're going to get that discount.
Right, and it does allow that. It's just a matter of facts that they will get that 3.3 leg up, only because again it's being collected internally, and so we're paying it to ourselves.
Shirley?
Well, I just have a question about where did that 10% go? There used to be, and I'm not sure if you said, somebody said along the way, and I do believe it might have been you, Paul, that said that was questionable. We were accepting bids that from local vendors as if they were within a 10% amount. And why is that not acceptable?
So in our current code that we removed the 10%, I've never accepted a bid based on that 10% amount. And my understanding is that after the Supreme Court ruling on is it City of Phoenix or Phoenix? I can't remember the name of it now. It slips me. That there was a clarifying statement by the Supreme Court saying you have to have a direct financial benefit. You can't use secondary benefit to calculate a benefit. But I saw that Councilman Shipley had his hand up. So did you want to add to?
It was City North. But,
City North, that's it.
Yeah, but it was, we had a 5%.
Yeah, I thought it was
advantage when
5%.
I was on council that we used to look at. But even then, it didn't come into play hardly ever. I don't think it ever really helped anybody. But it was 5%. Not.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever 10%. I never heard 10%. Yeah.
5, okay.
Mayor, if there's no other questions or comments, motion to approve the first reading of Ordinance 863 and move it forward to the next council.
Second.
We have motion and second to move ordinance 863 to the next meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Jeannie. Next, we go to action items. Item A, discussion and consideration of directing the recruitment for possible appointment of 5 individuals to serve as members of the City of Globe Board of Adjustments as established in the City of Globe Code Section 14-2-3B.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I would request to table that temporarily for tonight, just for right now, so we can move on the agenda to the E-session and then bring that back after we emerge from E-session, because there is an E-session question that I think needs to be discussed on pending claims before we move forward with that.
Motion made to go into E-session.
Mm-hmm.
Do we table
And, well, do we,
table the item or just go?
I think you have the power to move the agenda around, so I think you can say, we're going to take the E-session item first and come back.
To E-session?
Session
Yeah.
first, then come back.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay?
Okay, and so then, yes, we have a couple people that are going to have to exit. But Danny, are you cutting off the
Audio?
the feed and?
adjourn or we'll re-adjourn meeting.
Hang on there, I'm watching the feed. Are we on? Okay, so we're on there. Go ahead.
Okay, we're going to go back to action item, and we're going to go back to discussion and consideration of directing the recruitment for possible appointment of 5 individuals to serve as the City of Globe Board of Adjustment as established in the City of Globe Code, Section 14-2-3B.
So if someone would like to make a motion to direct staff and put the direct staff to seek out and recruit possible potential members of a Board of Adjustment to be interviewed by the mayor and approved by council, with the stipulation that no 2 members of the Board of Adjustment come from the same district.
Are we gonna do 5 or 7?
5.
So moved as stated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move forward with a process to find a Board of Adjustments. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We have any late agenda items?
No, we do not.
Any call to the public? Any more emails in?
Did we get any more emails during that time? I didn't look. No. No, okay.
Scheduling of meetings? Anything different?
No, we'll be meeting, next meeting, the regular meeting will be 28th.
Okay.
That needs to be corrected on the agenda. It says the 24th.
24th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So when it is, 28?
28, yeah.
2 weeks from today.
Yeah, my apologies. It is April 28th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any future agenda items? And no executive session. I think we're done with E-session.
Correct.
So I have a motion for adjournment.
Second.
We have a motion second for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Yep, happy birthday, Mayor. Good deal.